Want to help me make Buster's dinner?
Yeah.
What do I do? First, give it a little stir.
The bowl had a name scratched into the side. Buster. It was the dog's bowl. And every single night, when her husband flew out of town for business, Delilah scooped cold leftovers into that bowl, slid it across the kitchen floor, and watched her 8-year-old stepdaughter eat from it on her knees. But Delilah didn't know something. She didn't know that in 6 weeks, a man in a gray suit would knock on that very same door, and what he carried in his briefcase wouldn't just save that little girl. It would prove that Delilah never owned a single thing in that house. If you believe that fate never forgets the ones who hurt the innocent, subscribe right now and hit that bell. Because what happens next in this story, you are not ready for. 2 years before that knock, Delilah didn't even exist in this house. This house belonged to love, real love, the kind you feel the moment you walk through the front door. Obinna built this life for Chidera, his first wife, his only love. And they found the house together, a 5-bedroom colonial on a quiet tree-lined street in Buckhead, Atlanta. Big magnolia tree in the front yard, a porch swing that Chidera painted yellow herself one Sunday afternoon, while Obinna handed her brushes and told her she missed a spot. They moved in the summer Chidera was 7 months pregnant with Ayanna. "This is where she's going to grow up," Chidera said, standing in the empty nursery. Her hand rested on her belly, but sunlight poured through the window and landed right where the crib would go. "Right here, this room, with that sunlight touching her face every single morning." Obinna stood behind her, wrapped his arms around her, pressed his lips to her shoulder. "She's going to have everything," he whispered. "Everything we didn't." And for 6 beautiful years, she did. Ayanna grew up barefoot in that backyard. The Chidera braided her hair on the porch every Sunday morning while gospel music played from a little speaker on the railing. Obinna grilled jerk chicken on Saturday afternoons while Ayanna sat on his shoulders and counted clouds like they were treasures. They were the kind of family that made strangers smile when they walked past. Then Chidera got sick. It started with headaches that wouldn't go away. Then fatigue that no amount of sleep could fix. Then one Tuesday afternoon, she collapsed on the kitchen floor. The glass she was holding shattered around her. By the time the doctors ran every test they could, the diagnosis came back like a door slamming shut. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, aggressive, inoperable. Chidera lasted 11 months, but in those 11 months, she did something nobody expected. She didn't spend her days crying. She didn't fall apart. She planned. She sat in a downtown Atlanta office with a man named Mr. Adewale Okafor, a lawyer her family had trusted for decades, and she made arrangements, quiet arrangements. Papers were signed, accounts were restructured, a trust was created and funded. Obinna thought she was handling medical paperwork and insurance. She was handling much more than that. On the night she died, the hospital room was dim. Machines beeped softly. Chidera's hands were cold, but her grip was strong. She pulled 6-year-old Ayanna close and held her face in both palms. "You are going to be okay," Chidera whispered. Her voice was barely there. "Mama made sure. No matter what happens after I'm gone, you are protected. You hear me, baby girl? You are always protected." Ayanna nodded. She didn't understand what her mother meant. She would. Obinna buried Chidera on a rainy Saturday. He stood at the grave long after the last guest left. Ayanna held his hand and said nothing. The rain soaked through their clothes, but neither of them moved. Then for the next 14 months, Obinna moved through life like a ghost. He went to work, came home, cooked for Ayanna, helped with homework, read her bedtime stories in a voice that had lost all its music. And that hollow, empty, broken version of Obinna was exactly the man Delilah was looking for. She showed up like medicine, Warm, sweet, perfectly timed. And that should have been the very first warning. Obinna met Delilah at a business dinner in Midtown Atlanta. She was the guest of someone else's guest. Tall, elegant, soft-spoken. She wore an emerald green dress that caught the light every time she moved. Her perfume was subtle. Her smile was the kind that made you forget your own name. She found him standing alone near the bar, staring into a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. "You look like a man who's carrying something heavy," she said. He looked up. That obvious?" "Only to someone who's carried something heavy herself." They talked for 2 hours. She asked about Chidera directly. Didn't tiptoe around it. Didn't whisper the word wife like it was something dangerous. "I lost someone too," Delilah said. "Not a husband, a brother. It broke my whole family apart. So I understand the weight. I really do." Something in Obinna's chest shifted that night. For the first time in over a year, he felt like someone actually saw him. And they started meeting for coffee, then dinners, then long walks through Piedmont Park where Delilah would slip her arm through his and rest her head on his shoulder. She was patient, attentive. She never pushed. And she always asked about Ayanna. "I want to meet her," Delilah said one evening over pasta. "When you're ready. She deserves to know that someone cares about her father." Obinna introduced them 3 weeks later. Delilah brought Ayanna a stuffed elephant wrapped in purple tissue paper. She knelt down to Ayanna's level and smiled. "Hi, Ayanna. I'm Delilah. Your daddy told me you love elephants, so I found the biggest one I could." Ayanna looked at her father. He nodded. She took the elephant and held it against her chest. "Thank you," Ayanna said softly. "You're so welcome, sweetheart." That night, as Obinna tucked Ayanna into bed, she looked up at him. "Daddy, is she going to live here? Would that be okay?" Ayanna didn't answer. She just held the elephant tighter and closed her eyes. 6 months later, they were married. Small ceremony in the backyard of the Buckhead house. Ayanna wore a white dress and held a small bouquet. She didn't smile much, but she stood beside her father and watched this new woman step into her mother's place. The first few months were fine. Good, even. Delilah cooked. She kept the house beautiful. And she picked Ayanna up from school. She was present and warm, and everything Obinna needed to believe he'd made the right choice. But there were cracks, small ones, almost invisible. "Obinna, does she always leave her shoes by the front door like that?" Delilah said one evening. Her tone was casual. Her eyes were not. "She's 8, Delilah. That's what kids do." "I know. I'm just saying. It's a habit that should be corrected. That's all." Then it was the way Ayanna chewed too loudly at dinner. And then the way she laughed. "She's so loud, Obinna. It's a lot." Then the way Ayanna looked at her when Obinna wasn't paying attention. "She stares at me. This cold little stare. Like she's watching me." "She's adjusting. Give her time." Delilah smiled. "Of course. You're right." But behind that smile, something cold was already taking shape. Something patient. Something waiting for the moment Obinna would leave town. The first business trip was only 3 days. That was all it took. Obinna flew to Houston on a Tuesday morning. He kissed Ayanna on the forehead at the breakfast table. He kissed Delilah on the cheek at the front door. "Take care of my girl," he said. "Always," Delilah said. She stood on the porch and waved until his car turned the corner and disappeared. Then she walked inside, closed the front door, and the house changed. That evening, Delilah cooked dinner for one. Pan-seared salmon, asparagus, a glass of cold white wine. She sat at the dining table alone, then her phone propped against a vase, watching a show. Ayanna came downstairs in her pajamas. "Delilah, is dinner ready?" "Your dinner is in the kitchen." Ayanna walked in. On the counter sat a paper plate with 2 slices of white bread. a cup of tap water beside it. "This is dinner?" Dalila didn't look up from her phone. "You should be grateful you're eating at all in this house." Ayana took the plate to her room. She ate alone in the dark. The second night was worse. "Come here," Dalila said, but her voice was flat. No warmth, no pretense. Ayana walked to the dining room. "Sit." Ayana reached for a chair. "Not there." Dalila's eyes were ice. "On the floor." "What?" "Did I stutter, Ayana?" "On the floor." Ayana's hands started trembling. Slowly, she lowered herself to the cold tile. Dalila stood up. She opened the cabinet beneath the kitchen sink and reached to the back. She pulled out a ceramic bowl, beige, chipped at the rim, and with a name scratched into the glaze in faded letters. Buster, the family dog who died 2 years ago. The bowl should have been thrown out, but Dalila had found it, and she'd kept it. She spooned cold leftover rice into it. White rice from 2 nights ago. No seasoning, no warmth. She set it on the tile floor in front of Ayana. "Eat." Ayana's eyes filled with tears. That's Buster's bowl. And now it's yours." Dalila sat back down and picked up her wine glass. "Eat, or go to bed hungry. Your choice." Ayana ate, on her hands and knees, on the cold kitchen floor of her own home. Tears dropping silently into stale rice while the woman her father married sipped Chardonnay 3 feet away. This became the pattern. Every single time Obinna traveled, and he traveled 2, sometimes 3 weeks a month, Dalila transformed. The dining table was hers, the couch was hers, the warmth and comfort of the house, all hers. Ayana got the floor, the dog's bowl, cold leftovers. Silence. And then came the laundry room. "You're sleeping in here from now on," Dalila said one night, pointing to the cramped utility room off the garage. "But my bedroom—" "Your bedroom is being used for my things. This is where you sleep." Ayana lay on a pile of old towels that night. The dryer hummed against the wall behind her head. The air smelled like detergent and dust. She held the stuffed elephant Dalila had given her that first day and pressed it against her chest. "Mama said I'm protected," she whispered to the ceiling. "Mama said I'm protected." At school, Ayana stopped eating lunch, not because she chose to, because there was nothing in her bag. Dalila sent her with an empty lunchbox every single morning. "If your teacher asks, what do you say?" "I ate a big breakfast." "Good girl. Now go." Thandiwe heard the crying through the walls, every single night, and every single morning. She swallowed her rage and chose silence, not because she didn't care, because she cared too much to act without proof. Thandiwe had been the family's housemaid since before Chidera died. Chidera had hired her personally, recommended by a friend from church, paid her fairly, treated her like family. When Chidera was alive, Thandiwe had her own room in the house, a proper room with a window and clean sheets. Now Chidera used to leave little handwritten notes on her pillow. "Thank you for everything, T. You are a blessing to this home." After Dalila arrived, Thandiwe was moved to a cramped space above the garage. No notes, no kindness. Just a list of tasks every morning and a warning to stay invisible. "Clean the bathrooms by 10. Laundry folded by noon. Don't be seen when I have company." Thandiwe accepted it. She needed the money. She had a 12-year-old son she was supporting. She couldn't risk being fired. But then she saw the bowl. She was carrying folded towels past the kitchen when she stopped in the doorway. Ayana was on her knees. The dog bowl was in front of her, cold noodles inside it. Ayana's small shoulders were shaking. Dalila was upstairs, laughing on the phone, music playing in her bedroom. Thandiwe set the towels down quietly. She knelt beside Ayana on the floor. "Baby girl," her voice was barely a whisper. "What is this?" Ayana looked up, and her eyes were hollow. "It's dinner." This is not dinner. This is... Please. Ayana grabbed Thandiway's wrist. Please don't say anything. She said if I tell anyone, she'll send me away. She said Daddy doesn't really want me. She said he only keeps me because he feels guilty about Mama dying. Something inside Thandiway's chest cracked wide open. She wanted to carry Ayana out the front door. She wanted to call Obina immediately. She wanted to scream until the walls shook. But she knew how Dalila operated. Smooth, calm, always in control. If Thandiway accused her without evidence, Dalila would deny it. She'd call Thandiway a liar. She'd fire her that same day. And then there would be nobody left in that house to watch over Ayana. So Thandiway made a different choice. That night, after Dalila went to sleep, Thandiway sat on the edge of her small bed above the garage. She opened a spiral notebook, and she began to write. Date. Time. What Ayana was given to eat. Where Ayana was forced to sleep. What Dalila said to her, word for word. She described the bruises, small, oval, finger-shaped marks on Ayana's upper arms where Dalila had grabbed her too hard. She took photos on her phone when she could. Quick, quiet. In the seconds when Dalila's back was turned. She didn't know who to show it to yet, but she knew the day would come when someone would ask for the truth. And when that day came, Thandiway would open that notebook, and every page would speak. Mrs. Mensah had lived on that street for 16 years. She knew the rhythm of every house, every family, every car that pulled in and out of every driveway. And she knew in her bones, that something was deeply wrong behind that front door. It started with the school bus. Every afternoon, Mrs. Mensah sat on her porch with a cup of rooibos tea and watched the children come home. She'd watched Ayana grow up, seen her jump off that bus laughing, braids bouncing, sprinting up the driveway while Chidera waved from the porch with a plate of sliced fruit. After Chidera died, Ayana got quieter. That was expected. Grief shrinks children. But after Dalila moved in, Ayana didn't just get quiet. She got small. She stepped off the bus slowly, head down, arms crossed over her chest. She walked toward the house like she was walking toward something that frightened her. Then Mrs. Mensah noticed the weight loss. Ayana's school uniform hung loose on her frame, and her collarbones jutted out. Her wrists looked like they could snap. Then she saw the bruises. One afternoon, Ayana was pulling mail from the mailbox. Her sleeve rode up. 5 dark marks on her forearm. Purple, finger-shaped, unmistakable. Mrs. Mensah set her tea down. Her hand was shaking. The next morning, she waited until she saw Thandiway outside emptying the trash bins. She crossed the street. Thandiway. She kept her voice low. I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Thandiway's eyes darted toward the house. Mrs. Mensah, I can't... Is that woman hurting that child? Silence. A long, loaded silence. Thandiway's chin trembled. She didn't nod. She didn't shake her head, but tears spilled down her cheeks. And that was enough. I have a notebook, Thandiway whispered. Dates, photos, everything. 4 months of it. Who do we give it to? I don't know. If we tell Obina, Dalila will twist it. She'll say we're jealous. She'll say Ayana is a liar. She's too smart. She'll win. Then we don't tell Obina. Mrs. Mensah reached into her cardigan pocket. She pulled out a business card. Old, slightly creased. A name was printed across the front in raised black letters. Mr. Adewale Okafor, Esquire. Where did you get that? Thandiway asked. Chidera gave it to me. 3 weeks before she died. She held both my hands and said, if anything ever happens to my daughter, anything at all, you call this man, and he will know what to do. Thandiway stared at the card like it was a key. Chidera knew, Mrs. Mensah said softly. She saw this coming. She prepared for it. That evening, Mrs. Mensah sat in her living room with the phone in her hand. She dialed the number. It rang 4 times. Okafor and Associates. How may I help you? Mr. Okafor, my name is Mrs. Mensah. I live on Chidera Street. I'm calling about her daughter, about Ayana. A pause, then a voice, deep, steady, razor sharp. Tell me everything. And she did. There was something about Chidera that Obinna never fully understood, and Chidera had wanted it that way. Chidera was born in Lagos, Nigeria, but she grew up in Atlanta, raised by her grandfather, a man named Ezekiel Nduka. Ezekiel Nduka arrived in America in 1972 with $200 and a degree in civil engineering from the University of Lagos. He started a small construction company in South Atlanta. By 1985, and he had built over 300 homes across the state of Georgia. By 1995, Nduka Development Group was one of the largest black-owned commercial real estate firms in the entire Southeast. When Ezekiel died in 2009, his estate was valued at over $90 million. He had one grandchild, Chidera. Chidera inherited everything, but she didn't want the boardroom. She didn't want the title. Chidera was a school teacher. She loved children. She loved quiet Saturday mornings and hand-painted porch swings and the smell of rain on red clay. And she loved Obinna, a mid-level logistics manager with kind eyes and steady hands. Not a rich man, not a connected man, just a good man. She never told him about the money, not because she didn't trust him, because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she had. She let Obinna believe the Buckhead house was purchased with their combined savings and a mortgage. She let him think the occasional checks from the family trust were a modest inheritance from her grandfather's pension. In truth, the house was bought in full, cash, through the Nduka family trust, the cars from the trust, Ayana's education fund, the trust. Every comfortable corner of their life had been quietly funded by Chidera's fortune. And when she got sick, she called Mr. Okafor to her bedside and restructured everything. "If I die," Chidera said, her voice thin but firm, "say everything goes to Ayana, not Obinna. Ayana, held in trust until she turns 21. Every property, every account, every dollar." "And if something goes wrong before then?" Mr. Okafor asked. "If someone mistreats her?" Chidera looked at him with eyes that burned. "Then you step in. Full authority. You remove whoever is hurting her. You protect her with everything the trust has, whatever it takes." Mr. Okafor nodded. He drafted the documents that week. But Chidera did one more thing, and something she told no one. Not Obinna, not Thandiwe, not even Mrs. Mensah. She wrote a letter, 2 pages, handwritten, folded carefully, sealed in a white envelope with Ayana's name on the front in Chidera's gentle handwriting. She handed it to Mr. Okafor. "Give this to her when the time is right. She'll know what it means." Mr. Okafor locked that letter in his office safe. For 2 years, it waited. The black sedan pulled into the driveway at exactly 11:14 on a Tuesday morning. And Dalila was not expecting company. She was lounging at the dining table in a silk robe, scrolling through her phone, sipping coffee. Ayana was at school. Obinna was in New York for the week. The house was quiet, Dalila's kind of quiet. The doorbell rang. She opened the door and saw a tall man in a charcoal gray suit, silver at the temples, reading glasses tucked neatly into his breast pocket. He carried a leather briefcase. Behind him stood a woman in a navy blazer holding a clipboard. "Mrs. Dalila? Who's asking?" "My name is Mr. Adewale Okafor. I'm an attorney representing the Nduka Family Trust." Dalila blinked. "The what?" "May I come in? This concerns a child in your care." "No, you may not. Whatever this is, you can call my husband." "Mrs. Dalila, I'm not here for your husband." His voice was calm, but it carried weight. "I am here about Ayana." Something flickered behind Dalila's eyes. Something fast. Something afraid. What about her? I would strongly prefer to discuss this inside. She stared at him for a long time. Then she stepped aside. They sat in the living room, Dalila on the leather couch, Mr. Okafor across from her in the armchair. The woman with the clipboard stationed herself near the front door. Mr. Okafor opened his briefcase. He removed a thick folder and placed it on the coffee table. I'll be direct. I have received a formal report, supported by extensive documentation, regarding the treatment of Ayana in this household during your husband's absences. Dalila's hand froze around her coffee cup. Excuse me? Photographs. A handwritten log spanning 4 months. Medical notes from Ayana's school nurse documenting unexplained weight loss. And a signed witness statement from inside this home. He opened the folder. Shall I continue? Dalila set her cup down hard. That's ridiculous. Whoever told you that is lying. Was it the maid? That woman across the street? Because I'll tell you right now, they are both jealous, miserable people. Ayana is dramatic. She exaggerates. Mrs. Dalila. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I have 47 photographs. I have timestamps. I have dates. I have descriptions of a child being forced to eat from a dog bowl on a kitchen floor. The room went silent. Now, Mr. Okafor continued, folding his hands, let me explain something you clearly don't know. Chidera, Ayana's mother, was the sole heir of the Nduka estate. Her grandfather built one of the most valuable commercial real estate portfolios in the southeast United States. Upon Chidera's death, the entire estate was placed into an irrevocable trust. For Ayana, he paused. The current value of that trust is $47 million. Dalila stopped breathing. Included in that trust? Mr. Okafor's voice slowed deliberately. Is this house? The words landed like a hammer on glass. This house. The one you're sitting in right now. Where you made a child eat from a dog bowl on the kitchen floor. This house belongs to Ayana. It has belonged to Ayana since before she was born. It was purchased in full by the Nduka Trust. Your name has never been on the deed. Your husband's name has never been on the deed. Dalila's lips parted. Nothing came out. The vehicle's in the garage. The investment accounts your husband draws from for household expenses. The brokerage portfolio that funds your lifestyle. All of it flows from the Nduka Trust. All of it belongs to Ayana. He reached into the folder and placed a single document on the table. This is a court order, effective immediately. You are to vacate this property within 72 hours. You are prohibited from any contact with Ayana pending a full investigation by the Department of Family and Children's Services. Dalila's hands started shaking violently. You can't do this. I'm his wife. I have rights. This is not your home. Mr. Okafor stood. He buttoned his jacket slowly. It was never your home. You are a guest in a house that belongs to an 8-year-old girl. A girl you starved. A girl you humiliated. A girl you broke. He closed his briefcase with a firm click. You fed the owner of this house from a dog's bowl, Mrs. Dalila. You made her sleep on the floor of her own laundry room. You told her that her own father didn't love her. He walked toward the door. 72 hours. I suggest you start packing. Obinna walked through the front door at 6:47 that evening. He hadn't spoken a single word the entire flight home. Mr. Okafor had called him at noon, told him everything. Every detail. The bowl, the laundry room, the bruises, the empty lunchbox. 4 months of abuse documented page by page. Obinna sat in seat 14A on the flight from JFK to Hartsfield-Jackson and cried silently for 2 straight hours. The woman next to him offered a tissue. He couldn't even look at her. When he walked through the door, Dalila was sitting on the couch, one suitcase beside her. Mascara streaked. She stood up when she saw him and reached for his hands. Obinna, Please. Just listen to me. It's not what they said. I love Ayana. I would never hurt. Stop. One word. Low, broken, trembling. But it filled the room like thunder. Where is my daughter? She's upstairs. She's fine. Obina, just let me. He walked past her. Didn't look at her. Didn't slow down. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time and pushed open Ayana's bedroom door. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, the stuffed elephant on her lap. And she looked up with wide brown eyes, Chidera's eyes, and her bottom lip started to tremble. Daddy? Obina dropped to his knees on the carpet. He pulled her into his chest and held her so tight his arms shook. I'm sorry. His voice shattered. I'm so sorry, baby. Daddy didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. Ayana buried her face into his neck. Her small body was trembling. She said you didn't love me, Daddy. She said you were going to send me somewhere. Never. He held her tighter. Never. You hear me? You are my whole world. You are everything I have. They stayed like that on the bedroom floor for a long time. Father and daughter, broken and holding each other together. Downstairs, the front door opened and closed. Delilah left with one suitcase and the clothes on her back. No house, no car, no accounts, no status. And everything she had enjoyed, everything she had strutted through that home believing was hers, had never belonged to her. Not a single room, not a single dollar. 3 days later, Mr. Okafor returned to the house. But this time, he didn't bring a court order. He brought a letter. He sat at the kitchen table across from Obina and Ayana, the same table where Delilah had sipped wine while a child ate from a dog bowl 3 feet away. Chidera wrote this before she passed, Mr. Okafor said quietly. She asked me to give it to Ayana when the time came. He placed a white envelope on the table. Ayana's name was written on the front in handwriting so familiar that Obina's breath caught in his chest. Ayana looked up at her father. He nodded. His eyes were already red. She opened it slowly, carefully, like she was unwrapping something sacred. Inside was a single page. Chidera's handwriting, neat, slightly slanted, full of love. Ayana read it out loud. My beautiful Ayana. If you are reading this letter, it means Mama isn't there anymore. And I am so sorry for that. I am sorry I couldn't stay longer. I am sorry I couldn't braid your hair on more Sunday mornings. I am sorry I couldn't watch you grow tall. But I need you to know something important. You are not alone. You were never alone. Before you were born, I made sure that nobody could ever take what is yours. Not your home, not your future, not your name, not your worth. You come from strength, baby girl. Your great-grandfather came to this country with nothing and built an empire with his bare hands. And everything he built for you. So be kind, be brave, be gentle with the people who are gentle with you. And never, ever, let anyone make you feel small. Because you, my love, you are the biggest thing in every room you walk into. Love you forever and always. Mama. Obina broke. He put his face in his hands and wept at the table. Deep, shaking, a soundless sobs that came from somewhere so far down they didn't have a name. Ayana climbed into his lap. She put her small hands on both sides of his face and tilted it up toward hers. It's okay, Daddy. Her voice was steady, soft, strong. Mama said I'm protected. Remember? She promised. Obina looked at his daughter, 8 years old, thin as paper, bruises still yellowing on her arms, and she was the one holding him together. Yeah, baby. He kissed her forehead. Mama kept her promise. Thandiwe stood in the kitchen doorway, tears running down her face. She held a dish towel against her mouth to keep from making a sound. She had written every page, documented every bruise, kept a promise to a woman she loved even after that woman was gone. Across the street, Mrs. Mensa sat on her porch. She could see the kitchen light glowing through the window. She pressed Chidera's old photograph against her heart and whispered to the evening air. "We got her. My sweetheart. Your baby is safe." Dalila filed for half of Obina's assets in the divorce. She got nothing. Every dollar she thought was Obina's had come from the Nduka Trust, and Dalila's name had never appeared on a single document. The divorce was finalized in 90 days. She disappeared from Atlanta and was never heard from again. Ayana started therapy the following week. She ate at the dining table every night. She gained weight. Her laughter came back, slowly. First a whisper, and then a giggle, then the full, room-filling sound Chidera had once loved. And every single night before bed, Ayana held her mother's letter against her chest and whispered the last line like a prayer. "I am the biggest thing in every room." You know, fate doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't announce itself with thunder and lightning. Sometimes fate is a notebook, a business card, a letter locked in a safe. It waits. It watches. And when the moment is right, it knocks on the door. If this story hit something in your chest just now, if you felt that fire rise up inside you, then you belong here. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell, because on this channel, the cruel always fall, the humble always rise, and fate never misses.